What's going on, guys? Black Scout Survival, and today we're talking about the 5 methods of man tracking. And there's a couple different type of trackers. Really, there's like mainly 2 types, and you have combat trackers and you have professional trackers. Combat trackers are usually guys, military guys, or various law enforcement agencies as well. But what they do is they track. And they kind of like take all the intel that's gathered and kind of like make a judgment to hurry up and get to a place. So it may be a few different teams, and they're doing leapfrogging around. They may track a certain way, and they figure out this azimuth. They see something off in a distance that they think that the subject could be, or the quarry could be going towards, and so they'll send a team in front to try to catch up with them. So they like roadblock them or dead end them. Then you have, so they may not go sign to sign for, combat tracking. But a professional tracker, like a search and rescue or whatever, he may follow actual sign. And for most of us, that would be the beneficial thing is, sign to sign. Man tracking as well as animal tracking, these same principles will apply. But anyhow, the 5 things are displacement, stains, weathering, odor, and litter. And so some of these are a lot more complex and have a lot of variables in them, whereas litter is pretty self-explanatory. And if you're infantryman or SF or anything like that, combat arms, that all those little techniques that you do, like jumping up and down, noise, light, and litter discipline, all those things is what basically you're looking for in tracking, but also the physical evidence that's being left, or sign that's being left in an environment. But anyhow, let's kind of talk in depth about each one of those. So let's start off with displacement. Displacement is whenever anything is moved from its original position. And a lot of times, the biggest thing with displacement and tracking is displacement of soil. So whenever your foot hits the ground and the soil seeps up around your foot on moist soil. Obviously, displacement does not occur on asphalt. So whenever you step and the soil goes up around your shoe, that's displacement. Another thing that you can consider in displacement is, let's say you're walking, you step on a rock, and the rock is buried into the ground, and the edges of the dirt is now cracked around the rock, like you smush it down into the ground. Also, a more obvious thing of displacement is possibly somebody coming through an area with a machete and hacking down brush, moving through an area, and they're leaving, chopped limbs and stuff like that, that may take a lot longer, which would be considered a permanent sign. You have temporary and permanent signs. Temporary is the soil, being stepped on that will fade over time, like various footprints will fade over time with weather. And then you have permanent, which is like maybe chopping. So permanent displacement and temporary displacement. So those are 2 aspects of that. When you're analyzing footprints, they can give you a lot of information about your quarry, or it could be a group of people. It can tell you the sex. It could tell you, if they're trained or not. It could tell you the direction of travel, and it could tell you if they're trying to, lose you or use counter tracking measures, by trying to cover up their footwear, walk backwards, and stuff like that. So the biggest difference between a man and a woman walking, and I'll try to do a video on, the tracks portion of this in the future, but basically women's feet face inward to straight, whereas men's face more outward, and usually smaller feet on women and shorter strides, and larger feet and obviously longer strides on men. There's a lot of common sense stuff, but it's good to state it. The other thing is that usually when people are walking, they're going heel to toe roll, and so if you're trying to, use counter tracking measures, or, trying to trick your tracker, you're going to try to walk backwards, and the toe is going to be more indented versus the heel. So you'll see a more defined or refined toe print versus the heel print. It should be the heel print, vice versa. And that should, be what you know, basically check your stride from is heel to heel. And that's where you check your length of the stride. And a lot of times that can give you your individual and help you track them for a longer period of time. So if the, you know, stride is long and the prints are deep, usually that indicates running, you know, and it'll be more of a forward, you know, depth on that track. Versus if somebody's moving slow and carrying a load, they're going to have a much shorter than normal pace, stride, and deep footprints, you know, because the extra weight, and they're not going to stride, their stride ain't going to be as wide as somebody, you know, walking normal. There's a few things that you want to keep in mind when you're talking about the actual tracks. So as we're going down a list, stains is the next thing, and stains is what you think staining a surface. So a lot of times, especially in combat tracking, this or law enforcement tracking, government agency tracking, blood could be the biggest stain indicator you come across, and blood could be, you know, from a gunshot wound, person gets injured trying to, you know, rapidly move through a fenced area and cuts himself. And blood isn't always, you know, if you're a hunter, blood isn't always on the ground. You know, if you hunt deer and you follow a blood trail, it could be on leaves and brush and stuff like that. So you have to, you know, look at the top sign and bottom sign. If you don't know what that is, I'll put a link to a video at the end of this video where you can learn the basics tracking 101 type stuff. But that blood transfer could be on leaves and trees and stuff like that. One real cool trick, and I'll do a video later on this showing this technique, but basically a good way that, you know, combat trackers figure out blood is that they, or, you know, law enforcement trackers figure out if it's blood, is that they'll carry a small spray bottle of hydrogen peroxide, spray it on the leaf or ground or whatever to see if it's blood, and what it does is it bubbles, like when you put hydrogen peroxide on a cut, it will do the same thing. Now understand, time could also change things, like blood could get crusted, like if you see like one of your wounds, you don't clean it, it becomes brown and crusted. So you have to understand and just pay attention to whenever you cut yourself, injure yourself, you could do testing to see, you know, what the blood looks like over a course of time. That will help you in tracking. A lot of things are like that, just like weathering we'll talk about with tracks in a minute, the same thing. Also for staining, you have mud transfer type stuff, and this is very like on the lines with displacement, but you know, mud you may climb out of a creek bed and the mud is on your hands or something, you touch a tree or limb trying to get up and you leave a mud spot or mud on leaves where stuff is not supposed to be. So that's a couple things. Could be, you know, anytime that you leave sign from something else onto something else and it stains it, and it could be a permanent stain or it could be a temporary stain. So the next indicator we're going to be talking about is weathering, and weathering is what you think, the weather affecting indicator, such as you got rain can wash out tracks, you have wind that can blow tracks, you have you know, wind that could blow debris into tracks, cover it up. You have, you know, odor, the wind blowing and moving the odors or smoke that could be left from a campfire, or cooking, or, you know, dog tracking team. So weather is a huge either benefit or problem in a tracking scenario. And a lot of times the best time to track is when the sun is at your back and the wind is at your face. So it gives you the smells and the sun is creating that shadow in the tracks for you, versus facing the sun, like sun being in your face. So those are a lot of things that you want to consider. And a good thing you can do is just take a look at, go out in your backyard, walk around a little bit and create some tracks. And then every day go look at these tracks. Every couple hours look at these tracks the first day, and then every day going forward for the next week, look at the track and see what the weather does. If it rains, create new tracks. You can see what happens after rain, or there's a nice windstorm. You can kind of see what happened to those tracks based on the weather, and that would give you a good idea of how weather affects tracks. I'm gonna hit on the last two kind of together because they're very, you know, pretty much common sense, and as well as we've hit on this in a lot of other videos before. But odor, obviously, smelling, keeping your smell alive, you know, smelling tobacco use, you know, fire, You know, cooking, you could smell deodorants and stuff like that. That's why, you know, we used to tell our Marines, you know, keep as, you know, bland as possible. Don't use a lot of Axe body sprays and all that crazy stuff, you know. Keep your scents under control, you know, be very natural. And me personally, I use the, like the stuff, the non-scented that's used for hunting. Whenever I was in the military, that's what I used. So I wouldn't give off, you know, crazy scents and stuff like that. But that's, you know, odor, common sense. And, you know, basically, if you do use tobacco now, like smoking, it's going to, you know, inhibit your use of smell. So understand that, like, you know, if you smoke, it's going to be harder for you to smell smoke on someone else. So anyhow, then litter, another common sense thing, how we talk about noise, light, and litter discipline. Watch the video at the end of this video. You'll see a little box up there and it'll show that video. But, you know, litter, it can tell you a lot of different things. It can tell you how prepared the individuals are, if they're, you know, well-trained or not, how fresh the litter is. If you go see a rusted can, that probably isn't from your quarry. You know, it's probably from years ago. So understand that it has to be, you know, kind of fresh. And just, it gives you a lot of intel. Pick up on, you know, the size, how many people, if it's a lot of, you know, MREs or something, it's a large group of people. And obviously they're not trained because they're just throwing their trash out. So that's, you know, I know this is a pretty quick video and that's a lot to take in, but what I'm gonna do is there's a few books that I'll put in the description below from Amazon, different tracking books. You can pick them up, learn them. Tracking is a skill, believe it or not, that you can really teach yourself. I know a guy, self-trained tracker, probably one of the best I know. You know, he just taught himself reading books and actually applying it and using it. You know, an animal tracker, a man tracker, one of the best I know. So anyhow, like I said, it's just something that you need to go, don't just watch the video, go actually put this into use, do the things, make a little a little track box, like I said, outside, watch the weather and all that sort of thing. So anyhow, guys, like I said, wait to the end of this video, see the other little videos and click on those to get further information about this subject, and subscribe if you hadn't. And thanks for watching Black Scout Survival.